Okay, and we concluded with unit parabola, and um, okay, this one. And in the last class I told you that I concluded with one question: what is the derivative of delta t impulse function? Today we start with this particular thing. Okay, so derivative of an impulse. Derivative of an impulse. Now, first we consider the expression of impulse function. Note that the approximate version of the impulse function. Note that the impulse function, the approximate version of impulse function can be anything. One example I can tell you, I already gave you that delta AT means the approximate version. It is epsilon 1 by epsilon. This way we can write, or we can write this way. Okay, it is now once epsilon tends to 0. Okay, obviously it will be our exact impulse. Here also we can write that it is epsilon minus epsilon. Okay, so it is and the height is, so it should be what, half into 2 epsilon into epsilon, this epsilon. So that can be another one. So its area is what? Its area is um, so half into 2 epsilon into epsilon. So area is no, just it is 1 by epsilon.
It is 1 by epsilon.
1 by epsilon. So that is another thing. Okay, or it can be something like, we can write it this way: minus epsilon plus epsilon 1 by 2 epsilon. That we can write it. It is also our, so that is also our delta AT here, and that is also delta AT here, approximate version. Or many other form. So in all the cases, our delta t is limit delta AT epsilon tends to 0. So we take any one approximate version. Say we start with this one, the last one. Okay. So that is our delta AT versus t. So here obviously our delta t is, I write it that way, epsilon tends to 0. The area is 1. Now, what is the approximate version of impulse delta AT? We can express it in terms of step function. So its magnitude is 1 by 2 epsilon. So it will be 1 by 2 epsilon, the magnitude. Then one step is applied at minus epsilon. So it will be u t minus of minus epsilon. Ut minus of epsilon, which is cancelled by that one. That one. Okay. So that is the expression. So hence, what is our delta AT? Sorry, what is our delta T? Delta T is the approximate, that when epsilon tends to 0, we get delta T. So we put epsilon tends to 0, it is 1 by 2 epsilon u t plus epsilon minus u t minus epsilon. That is this way. Clear? Hence, so thus, therefore, what is our delta dash t? Delta dash t, when we take the derivative, just will be limit epsilon tends to 0, 1 by 2 epsilon. So its derivative is what? For u, its derivative is delta. Delta t plus epsilon minus delta t minus of epsilon. So that is the derivative of delta t. Okay. Or we can write it is actually limit epsilon tends to 0, delta a dash t. That is the approximate form of this thing. So pictorially it looks that one we can write it is delta A dash T. Now one epsilon or one impulse function. Okay, one impulse function applied at minus epsilon. Okay, its strength is 1 by 2 into epsilon, and another impulse is applied at epsilon. It's a negative, so it will be 1 by 2 epsilon is the strength and applied at epsilon. So when we combine them, we are getting then delta A dash T. Okay. Now, when our epsilon tends to 0, then we get the derivative of delta T. So when epsilon tends to 0, our delta A dash T approaches delta T. So pictorially it will be what? Pictorially it will be when epsilon tends to 0, it will be they will come closer and closer. So ultimately when epsilon tends to 0, they will just overlap on each other. So we'll get our delta dash T as one impulse. It's still going towards infinity, and that is this one. Okay, so this is that. So this is the graphical representation or the pictorial representation of the derivative of delta dash T. Okay, so this is called delta dash T is called unit doublet, a doublet function, unit doublet function. So a doublet function pictorially looks like that. Okay, just two impulses going in the opposite direction. So it consists of a pair of impulse function, delta dash T. Clear? That one. So that is the called unit doublet. Derivative of delta T is the doublet or unit doublet here. So once we know this particular thing, then we can take the area of a unit doublet. I go to the next page. So what is the area, okay, under a unit doublet? Want to find out. Now integration minus infinity to plus infinity delta dash T dt, that we can write integration. Now in place of delta dash T, we write limit epsilon tends to 0, 1 by 2 epsilon, then delta T plus epsilon minus delta T minus epsilon dt, or we take limit outside. Okay, and 1 by 2 epsilon also we are taking it outside. Then it will be a third bracket, delta T plus epsilon dt minus delta T minus epsilon dt, its integration. Clear? Now, therefore, now what is the, so limit epsilon tends to 0, 1 by 2 epsilon. Its area is what? Area is 1. Here also its area under the impulse function is 1. So result is 0. So the area under one unit doublet is 0. Okay, area under the unit doublet is 0. Now we consider one more thing. The last thing we'll consider regarding the doublet. A significant property of doublet function, okay, is shown here. It is what? Integration minus infinity to plus infinity ft delta t minus a dt equal to minus f dash a, minus f dash a. Now I want to give a proof of that particular thing. Now what is that? So minus infinity to plus infinity ft delta dash t minus a dt equal to, now we take we apply integration by parts. So it will be, we know it's first function into integration of the second. So it will be ft, integration of the delta dash is delta, t minus a, it is minus infinity to plus infinity, that thing, minus, then derivative of the first function, f dash t into integration of the second. Integration of the second is delta dt. Okay. So it is applying integration by parts. By parts. Now, here we can write, now we can apply what? It is f to delta t minus a. We can apply shifting property. So it will be f of a, that a will come here, shifting property. A will take the position of t. So delta in the last class I already told you. So it is minus infinity to plus infinity. Minus, now here also you can take the apply the shifting property, that a will take this position. So minus infinity to plus infinity, f dash a delta t minus a dt. Now here what happens? It will be, now delta function at t tends to infinity, our delta is 0. We know delta is non-zero at t equal to a. Delta 0 is non-zero. Delta 0 is non-zero. So at t equal to a, it is non-zero. But everywhere except that thing, that t equal to a, it is 0. So at t equal to infinity, delta is 0. At t equal to minus infinity, also delta function is 0. So you can write it is fa into 0 minus 0. Minus, this is what we can apply shifting property. So f dash a minus infinity to plus infinity delta t minus a dt, or it is 0. Okay. So minus f dash a, it is what? It is, its area is 1 into 1. So minus f dash. So that is the proof. Proved. Clear? So that's all about. Complete? Okay, I go to the next page. In general, it's page number 2, 3. So in general, it can be shown that integration minus infinity to plus infinity ft delta nt, sorry, nt minus a dt, that is the nth order derivative, equal to minus 1 to the power n fn of a, fna. Okay, fna. So it is the for nth order derivative, for nth order derivative. Okay. So this way we get, now ut, when we take derivative, we get delta t. When we take further derivative, we get delta dash t. It is called unit doublet. If we take derivative, we get delta double dash t. This is called unit triplet. When we take further derivative, it is called delta triple dash t. Okay. So it is called unit quadruplet. Quadruplet. This way we will get delta n minus 1 t. It is called unit n-tuplet. N-tuplet. So these are the successive order derivative of impulse function, unit impulse function. Yeah. Now, at some problems, you will face some problems where these singularity functions can be used, okay, to express other type of functions in terms of singularity functions. Just I want to show you two examples. Example number one. Example number one. Okay, so express f of t in terms of singularity functions. In terms of singularity functions. Clear? Now, we write f of t, it is equal to what? Now, we can express it. First, it will be a ramp function. Now, what is the slope of the ramp? It is, just we know, just I write it with a different color of pen. Just wait. Yes. Say its slope is what? Its slope is half. The slope is half. Now here, what is the slope? Say this is called slope m1. M1 equal to half. Now that slope m2, it is what? It is 1 plus 3. I'm talking about just the magnitude of the slope, not the sign. It is a negative slope, obviously, but I'm considering only the plus side. So 1 plus 3 divided by what? 6 minus 4. So it's a triangle. So this by that. So it is 6 minus 4. So that's equal to 2. M2 equal to 2. Actually minus 2. We'll take the minus sign later appropriately. That thing is what? It is M3 equal to this by that. So 3 divided by 9 minus 6 or 1. It's a positive slope, obviously. M3. So once we know this particular thing, then Ft is what? There is one ramp function, slope half. So it will be half RT. It starts at t equal to 0. So RT minus 0. Clear? Then that ramp goes indefinitely. But now we apply what? It goes indefinitely. So we add a negative ramp. We add a negative ramp at t equal to when? 2. When the signal goes here, then we are applying a negative ramp at t equal to 2. Then result is what? A horizontal value. We know a ramp can be cancelled by a negative ramp with equal slope but opposite in sign. So its slope is half, so we are adding minus half. So minus half r, sorry, I'm writing with that pen, minus half half r t minus 2. So that one is added. So result is a horizontal line. It goes forever. Now once the step, something like a step continues, then we are adding a ramp at that point. We know step plus ramp is a ramp. So when some step is going there, I already told you, if you can remember it, that here, somewhere here, I already shown in the next some class that step plus ramp is a ramp. So a ramp and step, they are added. So result is a step superimposed with a ramp. So step plus ramp is a ramp. So if it is that one, then you see that once a step is going on indefinitely, we are adding a ramp at equal to 4 in the negative direction. Then result will be a ramp. So the ramp is actually having some offset value. offset value of 1. Okay, the ramp will be there. So it is at t equal to 4, we are adding a ramp with a negative slope minus m2. So minus m2 or 2, we are adding r t minus, we are applying at t equal to 4. So that is this ramp goes. So this ramp goes, okay, indefinitely. Now once this ramp goes indefinitely, there are two methods. One thing is that we are adding another ramp here. Okay, so to cancel this ramp from t equal to 6 onwards, so it was minus 2, we are adding plus 2. So we are adding what? Plus 2 r t minus 6. So that ramp is cancelled by another ramp at t equal to 6. So result is what? A horizontal line. Now what is horizontal line or a step? Something like a step. We are adding another ramp of slope m3 or 1. So plus m3 r t minus 6 at the same point. So as a whole, we can say that this is actually what? It is 3r t minus 6. It means there was a ramp of minus 2. Now we are adding plus 3. There was a ramp minus 2 and now we are adding plus 3, a ramp of plus 3. So result will be what? Out of the plus 3, plus 2 is used to cancel the original ramp of slope minus 2. The extra value plus 1 is actually generating another ramp in a different direction. So that way also you can think without segregating it in two steps. You can think directly that it is and the minus 2 ramp is there. If we add plus 3, we get actually net is plus 1. A ramp of slope plus 1. So that ramp of slope plus 1 is continuing and it will go indefinitely this way. Minus r. So that is applied here and it continues forever. It continues forever. So that one. So now it makes our thing complete. So that is our resultant thing. Half r t minus half r t minus 2 minus 2r t minus 4 plus 3r t minus 6 minus r t minus 9. Sorry, this one. Minus half RT. So this is that particular net ramp. It is equal to our FT. So that is our final expression. Now I want to go to another problem. Our last problem of this type. Complete? Okay. So next page. Page number 4. Now in page number 4, we'll just see one more problem. Okay. XT, it is so it's 1, 2, 3. This is 2. This is 3. So it is expressed xt in terms of singularity functions. Right. Now, first we want to see that this is a parabolic function. Okay, we want to solve it. So it's a parabolic function. It is, we write it is k into pt. K is a constant. Now for unit parabola, we know, just see for unit parabola, it is half t square ut. Or for unit parabola at t equal to 1, its value is always equal to 1. P1 is always equal to half for unit parabola. Okay. So we write, see that for unit parabola, always P1 equal to half. Okay, but here it is K into PT. It is K into PT. At t equal to 1, its value is what? At t equal to 1, its value is 2. It means K P1 equal to 2, or K into half is 2, or K equal to 4. So it is 4 times unit parabola, 4 PT. So that ramp is, so instead of having a value of half, at t equal to 1, its value is 2. So it is how much? It is 4 times. So 2 is 4 times the value of half. So that's why it is 4 times the unit parabola. Okay. Now we know how to write the equation of a parabola. It's just 4 pt here, we know. But we don't know how to cancel a parabola. You see, it was not discussed in the last class because there exists some complexity in that in cancelling parabola. So I didn't discuss it in the previous class. Okay, it's not known. So better is that first you convert parabola into its derivative, that is in terms of some ramp function. And we know how to cancel a ramp. Once a parabola is converted into a ramp, we know how to cancel it. How? A ramp can be cancelled by a negative ramp of same slope. Okay. So therefore what we do, we just take x dash t. X dash t. Now we know x dash t, it is the slope of the graph xt at every point of t. So when we plot x dash t, actually we plot the slope of the original function. That is the higher secondary mathematics, you already know. So we will plot the slope of the ramp. Now what is the slope? It is 4 pt means 4 rt. The slope is already going there. So its derivative is the slope actually. Slope is rising. So it is 4 pt. After derivative it becomes 4 rt. So it is 4 rt. The derivative. So at t equal to 1 we are getting. Now therefore you see, what is the value of 4 at t equal to 1? Since its slope is 4, at t equal to 1, its value should be 4. So its slope is 4 by 1, 4. Get my point? See how we are approaching towards the logic. First, our 4 pt becomes 4 rt. Now rt, for rt unit ramp, at t equal to 1, its value is 1. So at t equal to 1, for 4 rt, its value will be 4 because its slope is 4. Then what happens? From between 1 to 2, what is the slope? Slope is always equal to this by that. So this height is 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2. And here it is 2 minus 1. So result is 1 by 1. One. Then its horizontal line slope is 0. So between 2 to 3, its slope is 0. Then at 3, what it will be? I already told you now what is the height of discontinuity. We know our height of discontinuity is given by the right neighborhood value minus left neighborhood value. Now right neighborhood value is 3. Sorry, right neighborhood value, right to 3, its value is 0. But left to 3, its value is 3. So 0 minus 3. So its height of discontinuity is all minus 3. That is 0 minus of 3. At 3 plus, its value is 0. At 3 minus, its value is 3. So 0 minus 3, so minus 3. And I told you one more thing, if you can remember that, after taking derivative, the height of discontinuity is always attached as a strength, okay, in the impulse function. Just I want to remind you, you have to remember all these basic things. Otherwise, every time you will face something, you will not understand it. Okay, just I'm showing you, don't worry. It's somewhere here. Say here this one. I already showed you. So this is the height of discontinuity K, right neighborhood value K, left neighborhood value 0. So height of discontinuity is K minus 0, K. So after derivative, Ku becomes K delta. So K is the height of discontinuity. That is coming as a strength of the impulse, K. So height of discontinuity is just shown with the arrow also. So it is coming as a strength of the impulse function. So if it is 10, it will be 10. If it is 3, it will be 3, like that. So once we know that particular thing, now we can say that therefore, as our height of discontinuity is minus 3 here, after derivative, okay, it becomes minus 3 into delta. So you'll get this one, its strength will be minus 3. So it's a delta function. It is what? It is minus 3 into delta t minus, at t equal to 3 it is applied. So this minus 3 is something like, and that 3 is here. Okay. So that is this impulse function. Minus 3 delta t minus 3. And that is the representation of the function x dash t. Therefore, what is our x dash t? Our x dash t, it is 4 at t. Now, this RAM need to be cancelled. This, it goes indefinitely. We are applying a negative RAM. So result will be what? A horizontal RAM. To cancel the first bit. So this 4 at t, that ramp is cancelled by a negative ramp. That ramp is cancelled by a negative ramp. So we are applying a negative ramp at t equal to 1. So it is 4 at t, so it will be minus 4. That slope is cancelled by minus 4. So minus 4 r, it is applied at t equal to 1. So it's 4 r t minus 1. The result will be one horizontal line. Its height is 4. But we, although we are getting a something like a step of height 4, but we don't want 4. Why? As per our problem, our height should be 1. So while cancelling the ramp, we are automatically getting a step of height 4, but we want 1. So how much you have to go down? To, it will be minus 3. So it will be minus 3 u t minus 1. At t equal to 1, we are adding a step. At t equal to 1, we are adding a step. We get 4, but we want 1. So we are adding minus 3, so that it goes down by an amount of 3 to have that value 1. So value is 1 now. And that value, unity value, it also continues forever. It continues forever. So that 1 is cancelled by, so it is 0. It is cancelled by another step. So it will be minus 1 more u. Minus u, it is applied at 2. Minus u t minus 2. It goes there. Okay. And t minus 3, that is there. So now on integrating, what we get? On integrating, it is xt equal to 4 pt minus 4 p t minus 1 minus 3 u gives us r. R gives p and u gives r after integration. Minus r t minus 2 minus 3 u t minus 3. So that is our mathematical expression. Now you can see one thing, okay. You can see one thing, that our parabola is cancelled by another parabola of same thing. But the thing is that once you get cancel a parabola, the result is not a something like a step. When a ramp is cancelled by a ramp, the result is a step. But when a parabola is cancelled, the result is a ramp. Okay, so that ramp needs to be taken care very thoroughly. So that's important thing. That's why it's better not to cancel parabola directly. Better you take derivative, convert parabola into ramp, write expression just by the cancellation method and all these things. Then after just apply integration, you will get back the original function. That is always better. It's a safe method. Clear? Okay. Any question? No. Now I want to go to uh, a different thing. But at the end, I want to make a comment why these functions, say delta, delta dash, u, r, p, why these functions are called singularity functions. You know that for any function, when something we get some zero in the denominator, means something by zero means something divided by zero means it means that there is a singularity at that point. So whenever at any point we get something by zero, then it is called a singularity function. Okay, it means there is a singularity or something whose value cannot be determined exactly. Okay. So the thing is, so here how we get a singularity. Say delta t, when we apply Laplace transform, okay, we get 1. For ut, when we get Laplace transform, it is 1 by s. For rt, when we apply Laplace transform, it is 1 by s square. For pt, when we take Laplace transform, it is 1 by s cube. Okay. So you see, in these things we are getting always in the s domain. Okay, it is something by zero. At s, s means what? Some frequency content s equal to j omega. If we put s equal to j omega, we get the frequency content of a signal. But note that in all the cases, we cannot put s equal to j omega to get the frequency response. From your circuit theory knowledge, you get it, you know it. But don't worry, I will highlight later, I will tell you in detail later why we put s equal to j omega to get frequency response and whether that thing can be applied always or not, with some exception. That everything I will discuss later. Okay, but not now, later. But at least from your previous knowledge, you know that when we put s equal to j omega, we get the frequency content of a signal, at least for some signals, if not for all. So when we put s equal to j omega, then it will be 1 by 0. At zero frequency, something 1 by 0 will come. So some singularity is found at zero frequency. For the last 3 cases, something by 0 is coming. So that's why these functions are called singularity functions. Something by 0 means that goes towards infinity, not determinate. And for delta t, we get something, it is also going towards infinity, but not in the frequency domain. It is going towards infinity in the time domain. So delta t is also a singularity function. So when these functions are having some infinite value, either in the frequency domain or in the time domain, we call them as singularity functions. When any function is having something by is approaching towards infinity, either in time domain, as the case is found in delta t, or in the frequency domain, as we find it in the other cases, then we call the function as the singularity functions. So that is the justification of telling them as singularity functions. Clear? Okay. Now with this particular thing, I like to conclude this thing, and we want to go to a different thing, the page number 5. Next is energy signal and power signal. Now consider one signal xt, okay? Then we can find out its energy. How? The energy of a signal can be defined as limit capital T tends to infinity minus capital T to plus capital T x square t dt, when xt is real, a real function. Xt is real. So it is what? It is the square of the function. It means if X is a voltage or current, then that voltage or current applied to unit ohm, 1 ohm resistance consumes some energy. So that energy is the energy carried by that particular voltage or current, or in general X. So it's just the energy consumed in 1 ohm resistance. Okay, so that is the energy carried by the signal. Okay, so now note that our capital T, it should be always, our 50% time is always should be in the negative side, and 50% time will be always in the positive side. It means that if we have a signal like that, say consider one signal, this, so it's minus, okay, A and it's B. So that is the signal. So if we take square of the signal, what we get? We get x square t. Just to take a square. So it's minus A to B. So energy is what? It is area under x square t. So that area under the squared function is the energy of the signal. So energy here is what? It is area under the squared function of xt. Area under the squared function. So that is the energy. Clear? So it now note that if xt goes indefinitely, from it extends from minus infinity to plus infinity, then for that area under the squared function, the area will be also infinitely large. Then we don't call it as an energy signal. Okay, we don't call it as an energy signal. So energy must be finite. Okay, so energy is finite. Okay, when xt is of short duration. The signal is of short duration. If it does not go does not extend from minus infinity to plus infinity, then area under the function is not infinite. It will be a finite quantity. Then its energy will be finite. So a signal, for an energy signal, it will be always a short duration. It will be a short duration signal or transient signal. So that is a transient signal. But to call it an energy signal, this is not the complete definition. What is the complete definition? I shall tell you just after some time. But at least we know, till now we know that when energy is finite, a signal may be an energy signal, maybe. Okay. But what happens if a signal is a complex signal? Okay. When a signal is a complex signal, okay, let xt equal to A plus JB is a complex signal where A and B are the functions of t, time. So it's a complex signal. Now, when a signal can be complex, you can ask a question, is it possible that a signal can be complex? It is having some real and imaginary part. How an imaginary part can be attached with a signal? Actually, the thing is that sometimes it happens that two independent signals exist in a system in a particular situation. The two signals are such that they don't interact with each other. They exist independently, but they have a common effect on the system. Then these two components of the signals are, if you call one component as real, arbitrarily the other component will be treated as imaginary. Why? Because we know real and imaginary world, they don't interact with each other. They exist independently, okay, but they have some composite effect on the targeted system. Example, say if you push me sidewise, I will be deflected either in the right side or in the left side. Get my point? If somebody pushes me from the back side, then I shall be deflected either in the front end or in the back end. Now, anybody pushing me from my left or right, I will be deflected along left and right axis, x-axis say, and anybody pushing me from back side or front side, I will be deflected along the y-axis. So what is my composite movement along the two forces appearing simultaneously? I shall be deflected along right side partly and also along the front side partly. So my deflection will be a diagonal movement. Its horizontal component will be along my right direction. Its vertical component will be along my forward movement or y-axis. So my actual movement will be the composition of the two applied forces. So it will be along diagonal. Okay, but the effect of sidewise force is independent along the effect of longitudinal force. Because the dot product of one force upon the other is zero. Dot product means cos. When two forces are vertical or 90-degree perpendicular with respect to each other, the shadow of the one thing upon the other is zero. It's a vertical line. So its shadow is zero means cos 90 degree zero. So dot product is zero. Get my point? So the effect of one force upon the other is zero when the two forces are perpendicular or orthogonal in nature. So two forces are acting simultaneously, but they don't interact with each other. They don't interact with each other. So one force will be arbitrarily called as a real force. The other one will be called as an imaginary, because a real and imaginary, they don't interact with each other, but they have a composite effect on the targeted system. A human being lives both with the reality and the dream. If reality is the real axis, then dream is the imaginary axis. The human being feels enjoyment with the dream also. His or her life is also modified by the dream as well as by the reality. So the two things have a composite effect on the targeted system. Okay, but they don't interact with each other. Here also A and B, they are independent of each other, but they don't interact on itself. Okay, on the other one. So that is called a complex signal, therefore. It has two independent parts, non-interacting with each other. Now, in that case, what is the energy? We call it a normalized energy. So it is called energy, and it is called normalized energy. Then it is limit t tends to infinity integration. We call it xt into xt star. Star means complex conjugate. Or you can write cap also. Cap is a complex conjugate. Dt minus capital T to plus capital T. This is what? Limit t tends to infinity. It will be mod of xt square dt minus capital T to plus capital T. It is not square. How? Let xt equal to a plus jb. So mod of xt is what? It is square root of a square plus b square. It's the modulus, you know. Clear? Now we write xt again, a plus jb. Now what is xt star? It's complex conjugate, a minus jb. You multiply them. So it is xt into xt star. That is what? If you multiply them, it will be a square plus b square, or mod of xt square. After multiplication, it's coming this way. So xt into xt star is always mod of xt squared. Again, now one thing, what is x square t for a complex signal? It is a plus jb whole square. So it is a square, okay, minus b square plus j 2ab. J square is minus 1, we know. So we know that x square t is not equal to mod of xt square as long as b is non-zero, or as long as the signal is complex. When signal is real, our b will be zero, then two things will be equal. For a real signal, these two are same, but for complex signal, they are not same. Okay, so that's why when we write xt into xt star, it is a integration mod of xt square dt. That is the energy of the signal. So that is a normalized energy for a complex signal. Clear? Now one more thing you see that we are writing it always minus capital T and plus capital T, means our 50% time is always in the negative axis, and 50% time will be always in the positive axis. So totally we are taking it from minus infinity to plus infinity. We'll take the entire time axis. It's not that when we start our observation at t equal to 0, our t equal to 0 arbitrarily, then everything will be computed. No, before our birth or before our observation, something might happen. We don't know. So that's why we have to take the entire history of the system, right from t tends to minus infinity to up to the entire future of the system, that is up to t tending to be plus infinity. So that's why it will be minus capital T to plus capital T, effectively minus infinity to plus infinity, here and here, everywhere. Now, if you write that, no, you don't want to write minus capital T, you can write minus 2t to plus 2t, no problem. Minus 3t to plus 3t, minus kt to plus kt, no problem. It can be multiplied with anything else. That doesn't matter. K can be a constant. But one important thing is that our 50% time will be always in the negative axis, and 50% time will be always in the positive axis. You cannot write minus 3t to plus 5t. No, you cannot write it that way. Minus 2.5t to plus 7t. No, they should be of up to of equal interval, equal duration. Okay, so that's all about the definition of energy. That energy must be finite for an energy signal. Okay, and it will be always a transient signal. It's a signal of short duration. That is a transient signal. That will be our energy signal. Clear? Okay. Next is we consider a power signal. What is a power signal? Let's see. Page number 6. No. কিছুই শুনতে পাচ্ছি না। এই তোমরা কি আমার কথা শুনতে পাচ্ছ?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, শোনা যাচ্ছে।
ও আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। হঠাৎ যেন ইন্টারাপ্টেড হয়ে গেল মনে হলো। দেখা যাচ্ছে তো? হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে। So next is, now we consider, normally what happens, the power is defined as limit t tends to infinity 1 by 2t integration x square t dt when xt is real. Previously for energy signal, better I write it when xt is complex. It is when xt is real, this definition, and here xt is complex, that definition. So when xt is here real, it is what? It is energy by time. Now what is the time duration? Minus capital T plus capital T, 2t. 2 into capital T is the total time duration for calculating energy. So that energy by time duration 2t. It is the power. Clear? If you write no, say minus 3 into capital T to plus 3 into capital T. So total duration will be 60. So it will be 1 by 60. If you write minus T by 2 to plus T by 2, no problem. Total duration is capital T. So it will be 1 by capital T. So any way you write that is, so that will be 1 by duration, that will be there. Okay. And for complex signal, it will be what? Limit T tends to infinity 1 by 2T integration xt into xt star. We call it Pn, normalized power. Okay. So minus capital T to plus capital T. It is normalized power. Or we write limit T tends to infinity 1 by 2T minus capital T to plus capital T mod of xt square dt. Here xt is complex signal. Xt is a complex signal. Now note that for a periodic signals, any periodic signal, okay, consider a periodic signal, just like say a periodic signal of this nature. This. Now if you take x square t, what it will be? Zero. So this is your t by 2 and minus t by 2. So it is t by 2 and minus t by 2. So it is the area under the squared function is what? It is the area under the squared function divided by time duration. So it will be that area divided by time duration is capital T. Okay. Now if you add one more duration, say this duration, you write this duration, then that duration will be what? It will be 2T. If you take one more interval, that when, so it will be what? It will be 3T. So you see here we are getting area in one cycle, but here its area is double. So that area divided by duration, and when area is doubled, our duration is also doubled. When area is tripled 3 times, our duration is also tripled. So area by duration is always constant for a periodic signal. So you see, so area by duration is constant for a periodic signal. Periodic signal. Hence, so area by duration constant means hence power is constant. Power is constant and finite. So every periodic signal is a power signal. So power is finite. So every periodic signal is a power signal. Every periodic signal is a power signal. Get my point? Every periodic signal is a power signal. But the reverse is not true, need not be true always. But the reverse need not be true always. All the power signals need not be periodic always. All the power signals need not be periodic always. Good example with that. Okay. But before that, let me summarize the whole discussion. Note that when our, so therefore we can say that, so note that when energy is finite, it is when energy is finite and power is what? Power, when energy is finite, then power will be what? 1 by that something.
Sir, hello.
Okay?
Sir, ওখানে আপনি area divided by ওটা কি লিখেছেন? ওটা বুঝতে পারছি না লেখাটা। আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
Duration. Duration. Now note that when energy is finite, okay, finite by it is infinite. So power will be what? Power is zero. So when energy is finite and power is zero, then xt is the signal is an energy signal. An energy signal. Clear? And when power is finite, what will be the energy? Now power, it is integrated with time indefinitely. So energy will be infinite. Just like, say, consider our power line. Here voltage and current, these are sinusoidal always. So these are periodic. So it means these are power signals. That's why all our devices are rated. All our devices are rated in terms of power, not in terms of energy. Okay. A 20-watt lamp, 180-watt fan. So these are all rated with power, not with energy. Now, when you integrate it for indefinite time, its energy will be infinite. It means if you keep your all the lamps and fans switched on for infinite time, infinite of energy will be consumed, and you have to pay infinite amount of energy, electric bill. You have to pay infinite amount of electric bill. So that's not practical at all. That's a different issue. So it means all the periodic signals are having infinite energy. Okay, because when power is integrated with time indefinitely, okay, then we get infinite energy consumed. So when energy is infinity and power is finite, okay, the signal is a power signal. The signal is a power signal. So that is one important thing you consider. So that is the definition of energy signal and power signal. Now note that for a periodic signal, we know that always area divided by duration is finite. So it is sufficient to take only one duration or one period to calculate power. So we can write for a periodic signal, power equal to what? 1 by, okay, T0. Say I am considering T0, time period, T0 here, this one, T0. So 1 by T0 integration x square T dt, T0 to T0 plus capital T0. Our small T0 is any initial time. It may be 0, may not be 0. For a periodic signal, we can start from anything else. We can start from anything else, but we have to consider one complete cycle, one time period. So is the area under the squared function of one cycle or one time period divided by the time period. That is the power of the signal. If you take double the time period, area will be doubled. So ratio is same. If you take 3 times the time period, area will be 3 times. So the ratio will be always same, or power will be always same. So for a periodic signal, it is sufficient to use that particular expression. Okay. Now, for a complex signal, what happens? Say for a complex signal, say A and B, they are taking, say if A and B, they are the functions of time. If they are periodic and their time periods are different, say its time period is Ta and its time period is Tb, then for a periodic signal, how to calculate power? What will be our time period when xt consists of two different time periods for its real and imaginary part? Can you tell me, anybody? So what will be our T0 then? Say I repeat the problem. Say xt is periodic, but it is a complex signal, a periodic complex signal. So it has one real part and another imaginary part. Now consider that their time periods are different. It is T and Tb. Get my point? So to calculate power for that periodic complex signal, what should be the value of T0? Simple. Ta is the time period of A and Tb is the time period of B. So we have to take LCM of T and TB. So our T0 will be LCM of this thing. Say as an example, okay, say our TA is having a value of 6 seconds and B, say it is a value of say 4 seconds. 6 seconds and 4 seconds. So what is the LCM of 6 and 4? What? It is 12. So
Yes.
our T0 should, so T0 will be 4 seconds. So in 12 seconds. So within 12 seconds, the signal A will complete, okay, 6 seconds, 12 by 6, 2 cycles. And within 12 seconds, signal B will complete 12 by 4, 3 cycles. Signal A will complete 2 cycles, signal B will take complete 3 cycles. So therefore, the pattern will be found, a complete pattern of XT will be found within 12 seconds. So T0 will be the LCM of these two signals. So this subject is not just a mathematics, it's a realization in the practical field. As we will proceed more and more, okay, along the path of this subject, you will gradually feel that yes, we are actually addressing the practical problems. You will feel it as we will proceed. So it's not only a maths here in this subject. Clear? So that's all about the definition of energy signal and power signal. Now let's consider problem. তোমাদের আমার ক্লাস কবে আছে? টিউসডে আছে না? নাকি মানডে? টিউসডে বোধহয়। ও ঠিক আছে, মানে হবে আর কি। So our problem. Sketch the following signal xt equal to e to the power minus a mod t, where a greater than 0. Okay. Also determine whether the signal is a power signal or an energy signal, or neither. Now mod t equal to t when t is positive and mod t equal to minus t when t is negative. Therefore our xt equal to, we can write e to the power minus at when t is positive and e to the power at when t is negative. So if we plot that one. Now energy, now how to calculate its energy, let's see. So it's a transient signal actually. So it is obviously, we expect that it will be an energy signal. Now energy, okay, E equal to integration x square t dt minus infinity to plus infinity, we are writing. Directly we are writing it. Okay. So it is from minus infinity to 0. It will be x square t plus 0 to infinity x square t. So note that in that range our dt is there. In that range t is entirely negative, minus infinity to 0. So when t is negative, what will be our x? When t is negative, our x is e to the power at. So it's squared. So it is e to the power at squared means e to the power 280. And in the range of t varying from 0 to infinity, t is positive. So it is e to the power minus 80 and squared e to the power minus 280 dt. So we integrate it e to the power 280 by 2a minus infinity to 0 plus e to the power minus 280 by minus 2a 0 to infinity. Or we put t0. So 1 minus e to the power minus infinity 0 2a plus e to the power minus infinity 0 and t0 1 minus 2a. So 1 by 2a plus 1 by 2a. So result is 1 by a, which is finite. So it is an energy. So its energy value is finite. Okay. And how to calculate power? Simple. AutoCAD. Now our power is what? Page number 8. Power equal to 1 by 2t. Okay. Integration minus t2 plus t we are writing x square t dt or 1 by 2t integration minus q to 0. Okay. Plus 0 to capital T. So it will be x square t dt and here also x square t dt or minus capital T to 0 or it is e to the power 280 dt plus e to the power minus 280 dt. Okay, now one thing I just forgot to write, limit t tends to infinity. So I write limit t tends to infinity. Now 1 by 2t, it is e to the power 280 minus capital T to 0 and e to the power minus 280 minus 2a 0 to capital T. So it is 1 minus e to the power minus 2a capital T plus e to the power minus capital T minus 1. Sorry, there is 2a here and it is minus 2a. So 1 by 2t. Now we are writing it 1 by 2a. There is a minus sign plus 1 by 2a. Okay. Then minus e to the power minus 280 plus e to the power minus 280 by 2a. This expression we are getting. Now as t tends to infinity, this part is 0. E to the power minus infinity is 0. Okay. E to the power minus infinity is 0. And it will be finite, some finite quantity by infinity. Finite quantity by infinity, that part is 0, so total is 0. Therefore, our energy is finite and power is 0. So xt is an energy signal with energy equal to 1 by a unit. 1 by a unit. Clear? Any query? Our next problem. A signal f of t has energy E. Calculate the energy of the signal f of 2t. This problem came in GATE 2001. And this type of problem came quite repeatedly before and after that also. Now we know energy of a signal ft is limit t tends to infinity integration f square t dt minus capital T to plus capital T. That is the energy. Now let E dash, let E dash is the energy of the signal f of 2t. So it is minus capital T to plus capital T. So it is t tends to infinity, that one. So instead of ft, it will be f2t. And its new energy is called E dash. Note that here t is just a dummy variable. If it is t, that will be also t. And once you integrate and put the limit, finally there will have no t at all. There will have no existence of t. So small t is just a dummy variable. You can write t, you can write p, you can write v, anything you can write. Z, no problem. So let 2t equal to z. Therefore 2 dt equal to dz. Okay. So better I write it in the next page. It's not possible here. Page number 9. So our dt equal to what? Dt equal to dz by 2. So it will be integration f square z dz by 2. That will be our E dash. I write it in the next page, page number 9. Okay. Therefore, our E dash equal to limit t tends to infinity 1 by tt. It is f square z dz by 2. dt means dz by 2. And what's about the limit? When small t equal to capital T, when small t equal to capital T, our z will be 2 into capital T. And when small t equal to minus capital T, z is equal to minus 2 into capital T. So the limit is minus 2 into capital T to plus 2 into capital T. There. Sorry, why I am writing, there is a mistake. It's a very bad mistake. That thing for energy is not coming. So here also it's not coming. Okay. No, it's just I made mistake only once. So now it means if it is minus 2t, it is also plus 2t, no problem. 50% time in the negative side and 50% in the positive side. No problem. So it will be half of limit t tends to infinity. So z here is a dummy variable. So what is that? It is the energy of the signal. So it is E by 2. So the new energy of the signal is E by 2. Actually, no, the thing is that actually our F2T is the compressed version of Ft. It is time scaled. So when it is compressed by a factor of 2, its width is reduced by 2. Height is same, but the width is reduced by 2. Therefore, energy is also reduced. Energy is also reduced by the same factor. Okay. So for f of at, the energy will be E by A. As width is reduced 8 times, the energy will be also reduced by the same time. Okay. Now, our next problem. Determine the power and the RMS value of xt equal to a cos omega 0 t plus theta. It is a periodic signal. That's why directly we can write that it's a It's a power signal. So what is our P? Now let T0 equal to time period of the signal. Therefore, our omega 0 equal to 2 pi by T0. So the power is 1 by T0 integration. So we are taking any initial time, T0 to T0 plus capital T0, x square T dt. So any initial time T0. So we are taking T0 integration 0 to T0 just, and x square is a square cos square omega 0 t plus theta dt. So a square by T0 so a square by 2 T0 into 1 plus cos 2 omega 0 t plus theta dt. Okay. So now if you integrate that part, it can easily be proved that integration over one full cycle is 0. So that part will have an integration of 0. I am not doing it. You do it. So that part will have a zero area, because the positive area and negative area is same. They cancel each other. So ultimately you'll get what? A square by 2. Only after integrating that part, it will be a square by 2. So that is the power. And x RMS will be what? It is the square root of power, or A0 by root 2. So it is, we also know that for a sinusoidal signal, RMS value is maximum value by root 2, which is also verified here. Clear? Next. Our next is our next problem is page number 10. It will be. Just I am showing you different problems. Okay. Determine whether the following signal is a power or an energy signal. What is that? Xt equal to RT minus R t minus 2. You know R is the ramp function. So what we do? First we plot xt. One ramp is there RT, its slope is 1. And that ramp is cancelled by another ramp, negative ramp, at t equal to 2. So result is a horizontal line. So its value is 2. So ultimately it is that particular function. So what is the representation of xt? Xt equal to 0 for t less than 0. It is equal to, now RT, or it is equal to t, slope 1. So when t is in between 0 and 2, and that is equal to 2 when t is greater than equal to 2. So that is the mathematical representation of xt. So once we know this, we can calculate its energy first. So limit t tends to infinity, integration x square t dt. It is minus capital T to plus capital T. Or first it will be minus capital T to 0, where x is what? 0. T is negative throughout. Minus capital T to 0. T is infinity. Then 0 to 2. Our xt is t square dt. Then 2 to capital D rest of the time. It is 2 square dt. So limit t tends to infinity. This is 0 plus t cube by 3, 0 to 2. It is 4 into t, 2 to capital T. Or this is 8 by 3 plus 4 into t minus 2. That one. But as capital T, or I write it better, it is 8 by 3 minus 8 plus 4 capital T. Now, as capital T tends to infinity, the whole thing will tend to infinity. So energy is infinitely large. So at least this is not an energy signal. Energy is not finite. Or another way we see that the area under the squared function will be tending to infinity. Why? Because the signal goes towards infinite duration. It is going on and on, over and over again. Is there? So area under the squared function is also tending to be infinity. So energy is not finite. So this is not an energy signal. And how to calculate power? Let's calculate the power. Now P equal to limit t tends to infinity. Our duration is 2t. 1 by 2t integration minus capital T plus capital T x square d dt. So after that, what we get? We get the last line. So it is limit t tends to infinity 1 by 2t 8 by 3 minus 8 plus 2t. So that part I am writing here. That by 2t. Now 2t by 2t cancels. Okay. Just 1 minute. It is not 2t, it is 40. 40. So it is limit t tends to infinity 8 by 3 minus 8 by 2t plus it is what? Capital T cancelled, so it will be 2. This is 0 plus 2 or 2. So it is finite. It means what? Its energy is infinite, but power is finite. Therefore, xt is a power signal. Although not periodic. So here is one example that our signal is not periodic, still it is a power signal. So where it is a non-periodic power signal, our definition will be like that. But where it is a periodic power signal, periodic signal or power signal, our definition will be better to use that 1 by t0 time period, using time period. But for a non-periodic power signal, our definition will be something like. And here it is a example of a non-periodic power signal. So all the periodic signals are power signals, but all the power signals need not be periodic. Need not be periodic. Clear? So just one exercise to you. 1 xt equal to e to the power j 2t plus pi by 4. Find its energy or power. We have to take mod of xt actually. Second is prove that the energy of a signal, of an energy signal, is the sum of its energy of even and odd component is the sum of its energy of even and odd component. So do it. This is the exercise. Clear? So with this, I like to, it's a page number 11. So I like to stop today. Any query? No. Okay, thank you. Just now I'll send you the material.